I used to really suck at photography, and I noticed the biggest thing I was doing was just flying up as high and as far as I can and just aiming in circles at whatever I could nearby. It didn't matter what time of day, what the weather was like. What completely dictates all my shoots now, more than anything, is it's not what I'm shooting, it's the conditions. I used to think, wow, I want a shot of that mountain, it looks really nice to me standing here right now, and I didn't understand how a camera saw it. So I would just fly out there, take a picture, and think that's the shot, that's the end of it, I did the best I could. And what's starting to happen to me now, I'll look at the mountain and I'll think, oh, the clarity's not too good today, and the weather says it'll be better tomorrow, so I should go in the morning when the light is behind the mountain. But then a day later, it's going to be partly cloudy and there's a little bit of fog, so I should see if there's any clouds hanging there because it could do some cool stuff with the light. So that is my fastest, biggest improvement. It sounds silly, but seriously, it controls everything I do now with photos. I will be driving home and have zero plans to go get a shot, but as soon as I see the sunset is really, really pink or it just rained and there's this rainbow in the sky or there's this weird haze in the air, I'll go and get a camera. And there are times where I've traveled specifically to a place just to take photos. And the worst thing is when you get there and the clarity is awful and there's fog in the air or dirt or something, and I'll completely sit out because I know as soon as I get up in the air and I start taking photos, it's going to be really underwhelming and then I'm just dumping crap on people and I don't ever want to do that. I only want to show my best stuff. So I'll wait it out for the best time of day or try and go again in the morning. Find a day where you can go on a hill and see the opposite end of town completely fine without any weird haze on the horizon. But what's even better is days that are partially cloudy but still really clear, and it adds pockets of light where you can see like the lines from between the clouds from the sun. And the best thing for sunsets is really feathery, soft clouds in the sky because it gives you a lot of texture in photos when you change the contrast and clarity. The next biggest improvement, I don't know why it goes against every instinct you have with the drone to just fly a million miles up in the sky and spin in circles and not know what you're doing. Stop going as far and as high as you can. You don't need to do that. Just because you have a drone doesn't mean you need to go as far away as possible. It just removes the limitations of the ground. It doesn't mean you need to be 6,000 feet in the air. It looks stupid. Everyone's seen it by now. Nobody cares. That's the most amateur shot. All my favorite shots are like 10 feet away from whatever I'm filming. Seriously, the best stuff is 20 feet off the ground with an object in the foreground and a ton of good clear view of the background. And this gives you so much depth to the environment. You're shooting with a really short lens. There's only so many things you can do with that. The best and most appealing application is showing how deep the environment is. Typically in landscape photography, you used to have like a rock or a tree in the foreground or a cactus with the sunset back there so you can, see how far the horizon goes. But now you can do it over anything, any roof, any resort, any hill. The third one kind of goes along with the last one, and it's shooting in panorama. It's really silly now looking back that I used to line something up in my tiny box from far away, try and get it in the center, and then just shoot, and that was the end. And it's even funnier looking now at all the people who want to upgrade to a camera with 21 megapixels over something like a Phantom 3 or a Mavic 1 that has 12 megapixels. When it really doesn't matter in the end, if you're shooting 9 photos and stacking them up together, you have way more data to work with. You can pick up way more shadows, way more highlights, instead of limiting things to the data in one single photo. You also get way, way cooler views. And one thing I noticed that helps a lot is that if you decide later on you want to put this on Instagram and you can't show the whole thing if it's a panorama, you can just crop in and you still wind up with a bigger photo with just that little crop than you would originally. Before I would take a square, and if I wanted to crop it, you could tell that there wasn't a lot of data there and I was zooming in. The other thing is that this lets you get super, super close to objects, and that is how you get super cool perspective and depth on something like a tower or a roof, because you can get seriously 10 feet over it at the edge, take one photo looking down, one in the middle, and then one looking across the horizon, stack them together, and you have this really awesome long shot. The DJI Panorama does a pretty good job, but you don't get the control that you can editing RAWs in Lightroom. And you have manual control over what you want to do with the panorama, like if you want to adjust any of the warping. Another one, if you want to guarantee even lighting across, anything that you're taking a picture of, go 10 minutes after sunset. If you go midday, you can shoot with RAW and try and adjust, or you can shoot in HDR, but if you don't want to do all that and you're the average guy who's just taking JPEGs, you're going to wind up with a ton of really deep, ugly shadows and hard contrast. It looks very amateur. So lower the shutter, keep the drone still, and shoot just a little bit. After sunset, you might have to shoot with a shutter speed of like 1/30th, but you'll still wind up with a nice, soft, even pink tone across the entire building, which is always much more preferable. Don't use any ISO. That's the end of it. Just adjust the shutter. Seriously, DJI, it's not the cameras, it's the gimbals that are phenomenal. You can go up to like 2.5 seconds and it'll still come out sharp and still. Lower the shutter instead of touching the ISO. General camera rule of thumb is that the aperture is the best in the middle. If you have a range between like 2 and 11, you want to be at like 5 or 6 to get the sharpest view. I've noticed with DJI drones, for some reason, the shallow numbers tend to be really sharp, like 2.8 is fine. When I can, I'll go to 5.6. I do know that if you're all the way down at f11, you're going to start to lose some clarity and it gets a little funny looking. It's not as sharp there, so try and avoid it. The last one, if this hasn't already been said a million times by me, shoot in RAW. Lightroom is just such a revolutionary thing for photo processing. Back in the day with Photoshop, you used to have to manually adjust every piece of a photo with brushes and drawing over things, and it took a million years, and that was the end of it. That was one photo. You have to start all over for a second one. Lightroom, you can just copy paste settings across all your photos that you took across the entire evening. It's unbelievable. The data you shoot with RAW is night and day compared to JPEGs. There is no comparison, and you will really start to like what you do. But let's say you have an abusive drunk uncle and he works as a board member at Adobe and you just can't look past it and you never want to touch software. You have an alternative, and that's just to suck. Seriously, just start using Lightroom. Even if you just click auto, you're getting better results shooting with RAWs. I got a bajillion secrets on how to use this stuff. Check out my other posts, because when I post a tutorial, I include the files with it so you can download and work with me. So look at the other videos and go get some cool stuff.